Hi up, Rayvers, and I hope you all had a wonderful Chrimbo yesterday. But it's Boxing Day today. We're all feeling bloated, having overindulged during yesterday's festivities, and all we can do is veg out on the sofa. And what more perfect entertainment could there be to watch than a Bond film? Now I asked the wonderful Ratrons, Nickel Ratrons, over on my Patreon page for their suggestions. Came up with some great ones, and they went on the rotating review randomiser, and it selected The Spy Who Loved Me. Now we get a gun barrel sequence here that is peak 1970s. Roger Moore's got massive flares on here. That's all you need to see to know when this film was made, really. But it kicks off underwater with a British submarine. Now, I feel I need to say at this point, I watched this on a streaming service, because that's where all the Bond films are these days, isn't it? But notice it, there's lewd pictures on the wall here. I'd never noticed them before. So maybe you Rayvers can put me straight, but would that have been the case at 3 o'clock on an afternoon, if this were on ITV, that you'd be able to see them lewd pictures of the nudie ladies? I've never noticed it before, so I think they probably must have cut it out, but I don't reckon I ever saw this at the cinema. I think I'd have just seen it on ITV once it got into circulation on the telly. But there's lewd calendars and lewd magazines galore here, more nudie magazines than Janis Barber's. And the folk on the submarine are just going about the business, you know, the day-to-day stuff, such as playing chess or reading nudie magazines. In fact, that bloke in the background, did you notice? Something's really tickled him there, ain't it? You know, he was looking looking engrossed, and then starts grinning away. I don't know what he's read or seen. But suddenly, the submarine equivalent of turbulence starts happening. And they go into a red alert, and they don't know what's happening. But you could tell from the captain's face once he's looked through the periscope that it's obviously bloody serious, this.
Oh my God.
Anyway, we subsequently find out, courtesy of Inspector Wexford, that the nuclear submarine has gone missing.
We've lost one of our nuclear submarines.
But intriguingly, their counterparts in Moscow are in the same situation.
The submarine Potemkin disappeared without trace.
Now, I found this interesting here because obviously this was Arctic Code War, weren't it? And we see the British Naval Headquarters. Looks like a hive of activity. State-of-the-art design and furniture and loads of folk milling about. But then the one in Moscow looks like it's in an unheated multi-storey car park. Look at that, there's just one chair in the background. That's obviously a bit of a dig at the Russians, that, isn't it? Anyway, the KGB enlist their top agent, Triple X, to investigate. Cut to some opulent bedroom where this pair are having it off. Incidentally, this fella here, very airy, isn't he? You can tell it's the 70s. You won't get away with that now. All your action heroes these days, they're all like plucked chickens, ain't they? They're all completely waxed, hairless. But yeah, very airy shoulders. Definitely an action man of his time, this fella. I reckon he might have been a milk tray man, that bloke. But we get an interesting bit of gender reversal, don't we? Because I reckon we all thought this when we first saw it. We thought E were Triple X. But no. Yes, it's Barbara Bach.
A woman?
Mrs. Ringo Starr. But then we move to Austria. Yeah, and Roger is having it off with this woman in this cosy log cabin. I think about it. Have you ever noticed when Roger is canoodling with a lady, it looks like he's sucking her insides out? His cheek just hollows, as if he's just sucking everything out of her, like some sort of sex hoover. But the message comes through on one of Q's gadgets that he's got work to do. Now, he doesn't look like he's putting any pants on there, does he? He's just going straight for the ski suit. I mean, fair play to him. He is James Bond, but all the same, he's in the Austrian Alps. I'd want some thermal underpants on me. Now, Roger starts getting pursued by some baddies. One of whom with the airy-shouldered milk tray man that Triple X were having it off with. And talking of milk tray, this whole sequence were ripped off for a milk tray advert. I mean, the milk tray man, he were a rip-off of Bond, full stop, weren't he? In fact, thinking about it, we've had a dearth of chocolates in our house this Christmas. Normally, somebody gives us some milk tray. We ain't had any this year. Very disappointing.
And all because the lady loves milk tray.
Now, not only is Roger not doing the skiing stuff, he ain't even there. Because at no point do you ever see him doing out in the snow. You only see him doing the green screen stuff. He's obviously got it written into his contract that he ain't going anywhere code. Because it was the same in A View to a Kill. All the bits he did were all in the studio for the close-ups. And the stunt double were the one who had to do the wide shots, actually out in the snow freezing his balls off. On the road, Bond shoots the airy-shouldered milk tray man and evades the other baddies by skiing off the edge of a cliff, seemingly to his death. But obviously, as we all know now, he pulls the cord on his Union Jack parachute, doesn't he? Now, I was thinking, was that always his plan? To ski off the edge of that cliff? Was that the quickest way back? Otherwise, why would he pack his parachute? But then in the same breath, what a waste of a pair of skis. Them and his ski poles, that's several £100 worth of kit he's just chucked away. He works for the government. That's taxpayers' money, that. Plus, I reckon a custom-printed Union Jack parachute would cost a lot more than a standard white one. Now, local authorities are having to make serious cutbacks, and that money's being wasted. Questions should be asked about that, I reckon. Anyway, we then get the titles and the theme song, and it's a belter. Yeah, Nobody Does It Better by Carly Simon. What a cracking Bond song that is. We've had some duffers in recent years, I reckon, but this one's a corker. Really sums up Roger Moore's Bond for me. I think it encapsulates him brilliantly and is a good accompaniment to the obligatory nudie ladies dancing about during the titles. Music by Marvin Hamlish, not John Barry. No, Marvin Hamlish, who did The Sting. We'll talk more about the music in a bit, I reckon. Now, after the titles, we meet the baddie, the evil Carl Stromberg, in his underwater lair. He's the chap who nicked the 2 nuclear submarines with the help of a tracking device created by these 2 fellas. And we find out what a nasty piece of work he is straight away, because it transpires that his assistant has been selling the secrets to this submarine tracking device. So he murders her, but he doesn't just bump her off, no. He's got a trick floor in his lift and she slides down to a swimming pool where a shark noshes her off. Weren't long after Jaws, this. So I reckon everybody were obsessed with sharks at this point at 70s. And the 2 inventors, they're horrified. They want to get out of there pronto with their money. And they're reluctant to get in the lift because they're worried they'll go down the water slide to the shark again. But no, Stromberg lets them get in a helicopter and then blows the helicopter up. And that's more wastage, ain't it? Well, we could have just used the water slide again. I bet the shark would have had room for seconds, wouldn't he? Waste of a perfectly good helicopter. And the pilot, who's a poor bloody pilot. Unnecessary. Luckily, that's the private sector, and that ain't taxpayers' money that's been wasted. But still an unnecessary extravagance, ain't it? Although Stromberg's entire lifestyle seems an unnecessary extravagance, living in his undersea kingdom, although by looking at the size of the water molecules, it does look like that model's coming out of the bath. Now, Bond has to go to Egypt in a gigantic pair of beige flares, and he's there to meet Fekesh.
Where is Fekesh?
Who's something to do with the submarine tracking system, can't remember what. And while he's there, he does some sex hoovering, murders a henchman, and visits the pyramids. I've never been to the pyramids, but this film does a brilliant job of making the pyramids look really tacky. This is supposed to be one of the wonders of the world. We just reduced it to a crappy laser light show. Looks a bit naff. On the road, Bond spots Fekesh at the pyramids, played by Nadeem Sawala, who were the go-to actor if he needed somebody to portray a Middle Eastern character. And wrote that Fekesh is liaising already with Triple X. But Fekesh spots a bad guy following him, so he panics and does a runner. Yes, the sinister and imposing Jaws. I say sinister and imposing. I mean, I reckon he's a clumsy oaf. Doesn't look very athletic, Jaws, does he? I'd back Bond in a fight every day. Just much faster, more nimble. Yeah, admittedly, he does look very strong. You know, if he gets you, he's got you. And he can give you a nibble with his jaws. Which is what he does to Fekesh. Bumps him off. And Triple X thinks that Bond has killed Fekesh, so she sets her colleagues onto him. I say him, because it ain't Roger who's doing it. You see on the wide shots here, he don't look out like him. Obviously these films were made before HD TVs, where you can pause it and go, that ain't him. But we do have that luxury now. So look, that ain't him. Now initially Triple X and Bond, they seem to be competing against each other. They're both trying to nab a microfilm for some reason, and they're always looking to get one over the other one. Roger's trying to get his leg over the other one. But their gaffers get them to join forces, because obviously they both lost a nuclear submarine, so they think, yeah, why not get together and work together. Also convenient that MI6 has got a branch over in Egypt. It's almost as if Bond is the only bloke who works for MI6, and the rest of the department can afford to just follow him around the globe, setting up offices all over the place. You know, as if they ain't got other stuff to do. Why's Miss Moneypenny there? Ain't she got the other double O's to be looking after and all? And why have they got a Q branch there, specialising in Egyptian-themed gadgets? And what's that gadget do? I swear they've got them on kids' playgrounds, ain't they? That's not going to do anything. And you know, Triple X and Bond have to pair up, and they have to take a train ride so they can go and visit the evil Stromberg. But much to Bond's consternation, they've got separate compartments. He were obviously hoping for some train nookie, weren't he? Part of him is expecting her to open the door to find him lying seductively on his bed. But then all of a sudden, Jaws is there! In fact, what's he been doing? Has he just been waiting in the wardrobe for ages? What if she'd have gone and had it off with Bond in the other compartment? Jaws would just be there for ages, wouldn't he? Bet he'd have needed a wee as well. I remember playing hide and seek as a nipper. As soon as you hid, you always needed a wee. Instantly needed a wee. Made the whole process unbearable. So Bond gets into a scrap with Jaws, and with it being a confined space, Bond can't use his superior speed and agility. You know, Jaws has got him trapped, really. Got massive hands, ain't he? Bloody hell. Either that or Roger Moore's got a very small head. But yeah, he does get to demonstrate his superior strength. Hang on. This is the benefit of HD again. Look at that. That ain't Roger. That's his shop dummy. Bloody hell. So, doesn't look like Jaws is even strong. Probably still stronger than Roger though, isn't it? It's all relative. But Bond uses his NAS to get rid of Jaws, electrocutes his metal choppers and boots him up the arse out at window. Now, I don't reckon Richard Keel would have done that stunt. He's far too oafish for that. Takes a lot of skill to do a stunt like that. I just wanted an excuse to show that. Never get bored of watching it. Now, when they arrive in Sardinia, they're greeted by Stromberg's assistant, Naomi, played by Caroline Munro. Ooh. Yeah, appeared in loads of famous stuff, Caroline Munro. Doug McClure stuff, Sinbad stuff, Hammer films. Very famous face from that era. Because she's a lovely lady, Bond immediately starts acting like a dick.
What a handsome craft. Such lovely lines.
Yeah. Now they take the motorboat out to Stromberg's underwater lair, and we get this nautical music from Marvin Hamlish. Now I reckon it was subconsciously inspired by his own soundtrack to Sting, because this melody, I think it's pretty similar to this. Is it just me, or are they pretty similar? Yeah, the Bond music subconsciously influenced by Scott Joplin. Now, posing as a marine biologist Robert Sterling, Bond meets Stromberg to have a nose around his underwater base. Now, I like this bit because the baddie knows that Bond ain't who he says he is, and Bond knows that the baddie knows. But they still maintain this charade, because this sort of scene, nobody does it better than Roger.
You recognize that variety, of course.
You see, Stromberg's testing him, because he knows there's no way that Bond's going to be able to identify that species of exotic fish.
Pterois volitans. Other fish avoided. Those dorsal spines are laden with venom. Handsome but deadly.
Yes, you can shove them venomous dorsal spines right up your arse, Stromberg. And he wrote, Stromberg's crackers master plan is to launch nuclear missiles from them submarines he's pinched to simultaneously destroy Moscow and New York, thus triggering a global nuclear war, leading to Stromberg and his minions developing a new civilization underwater in his own Atlantis. Absolutely crackers. Now, instead of taking the easy option and bumping off Bond and Triple X while they're actually on his underwater base, he lets them get back to land and then tries to kill them, by which point Bond is already bombing around in his custom Lotus, courtesy of Q Branch, and we get a chase accompanied by some funky Marvin Hamlish disco Bond music. And the Lotus gets to show off its clever gadgets. And also it goes underwater. Very clever. My lad Dino bloody loved this car. He had a cool Matchbox Mogul thing of it. Played with it loads. Shame I played with it so much, because I've seen, and they're on eBay now. If you got them in the box, they're worth a bloody packet. But he had his money's worth out of it. He thought it was dead cool, it could go underwater. I thought it were a bit daft. Although it did provide a good excuse for this bit. Now, Bond and Triple X board an American submarine captained by Shane Rimmer. Now, given the amount of pornography that we saw on the British submarine, presumably these American sailors are just as randy. So Shane Rimmer does the gentlemanly thing.
Major, you're most welcome to use the shower in my quarters.
Yeah, very gentlemanly. He's left a gap in the curtains so we can see a showering in the nip. Bloomin' pervert. Anyway, they're all on the bridge, and suddenly they go into a red alert situation, like we saw at the beginning of that film with the British submarine. So Shane Rimmer looks through the periscope to investigate.
Impossible.
Now, it's actually a massive tanker that swallows up the submarine and captures her. And after Stromberg has finished showing off by explaining every single detail of his cracker's master plan, he leaves Bond with the captured submarine crews on the tanker and heads back to his underwater base with Triple X in a motorboat. I mean, out of all the special effects we've seen in the film, that might be the worst. That's just a couple of action men, isn't it? Somebody's just lobbed an action man motorboat in the bath there, ain't they? Anyway, Bond manages to escape and frees the captured British, Russian and American submarine crews, and they have a big scrap with the baddies. It's really fun, this bit. Yeah, building up to a crescendo now. Yeah, this is typical Bond blows up the base bit of the vast majority of James Bond films, but it's done very well. Lots of exciting bits in it. And we get a tense scene where it's touch and go as to whether they're going to avert global nuclear war. And Roger does some superb eyebrow acting during this, to escalate the tension. And of course they're successful. But Stromberg has got Triple X at his Atlantis lair, so Bond heads off to rescue her. And Roger looks very dashing in on this jet ski, doesn't he? I'm surprised he did that, to be honest with you. Surprised he weren't green screened. Obviously quite happy to do that, because it weren't very code. Anyway, Bond arrives at Stromberg's underwater lair, and Stromberg welcomes him in, because he's obviously planning to get him up in the lift, and then send him down the water chute to get noshed off by the shark. But Bond's too clever for that, ain't he? Too clever!
You did want me to drop in.
And after Stromberg tries to shoot him courtesy of his extremely long-barrelled pistol under the table, I mean, that ain't practical, is it? You could only do a quick draw with one of them, could you? Bloody hell, you'd have somebody's eye out. Anyway, Bond returns the favour by executing him in accordance with the 00 textbook, 1 shot in each testicle and 2 in the heart. But it ain't quite that straightforward, is it? No, he has to have another tussle with the extremely athletic Jaws. Look at him there, bloody hell, he can hardly move. And he manages to dispose of him courtesy of this gigantic magnet with a control panel that conveniently says magnet. It's like something Wile E. Coyote would use, isn't it? Bloody ridiculous. But he does show good skill in operating the magnet. It's like one of them things you get in an arcade, isn't it? Where you have to move the claw around to win a prize. I can never bloody do it. But he's able to deposit Jaws right in Miglet swimming pool for the shark to nosh him off. But of course the shark doesn't nosh him off. No, Jaws noshes the shark off and then lives to fight another day. As we've seen him do throughout the film. Indestructible Jaws. I thought he was stupid. But there we go. So Bond rescues Triple X and they escape in the escape pod, which appears to be conveniently kitted out for some nookie. and Bond and Triple X's superiors interrupt Bond while he's doing some sex hoovering in time for him to deliver one final quip.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
Yes, Roger getting his British end away. And we get this jolly version of the theme tune, don't we?
Nobody does it half as good as you.
They've done that in any of the Bond films. Can't think of any off the top of my head. Put me straight if you can, Rayvers. But I can't remember a Bond film where they've done a jolly version of the Bond theme at the end. I always imagine it's a bunch of randy sailors singing it. Probably these blokes.
There is nothing like a day.
Oh, that were another Christmas staple, weren't it? The Morecambe and Wise Christmas show. Hey, and to be fair, them BBC TV presenters, they've probably done more of their stunts than Roger Moore and Richard Keel did. Okeydoo, on to Ray's ratings. Well, pretty much any James Bond film, I'll go into it open for a 3-star film. Obviously some are better than others, but you're hoping it'd be, some decent entertainment in there. Now, I feel like I need to put a caveat on my rating system here, because it's a very tricky one to rate. Objectively, it is stupid. There's loads of bits that don't make sense. Far-fetched, daft, bits that are a bit crap. Whole premise is ludicrous. But I was watching this on a Boxing Day afternoon, vegging out on the sofa, bloated and overindulged from the day before. So if you want a Bond film where you can just switch your brain off and let it wash over you on a Boxing Day afternoon, it's perfection. Roger at his best. So if you're watching Spy Who Loved Me on a Boxing Day afternoon, I am rating it a 5-star, 3-star film. Right, I'm having them.
And all because Ray loves milk tray.
Oh, bollocks! Well, I enjoyed my review of The Spy Who Loved Me, Rayvers. And if you did, poke the old like button for me. Give it a good old poke. Maybe get your big long gun like Stromberg. Poke it with that. And remember to share Ray reviews with your mates and subscribe if you ain't already a subscriber. Much appreciated. As has been your fantastic support throughout 2024. Seen loads of new subscribers. Loads of you been sharing my stuff, and you keep popping the loveliest comments underneath the videos. So thank you so much for all your support this year. It's the last review of 2024, but don't worry, I'll be back in 2025. Have a couple of weeks off and then I'm back into it. But the fun doesn't stop here, no, because after this is finished, I've got to hot-foot it up to the loft for the grand final of Ray Ruttle's race night. I'll pop a link in the description below so you can join us for that. Straight after this, straight after. And of course, copyright box permitting, I will be back with another review for you very soon. And I'll be back with a race night for you in a matter of moments. So yeah, have a great new year. See you next time. Okeydoo!